All right, welcome to another episode of Back Tries to Grow a Beard. Kinda. It's been weird.
Yeah.
AKA the FeedBak podcast. We got OB in the house.
What's up, guys?
We got our returning champ, Kimberly. Okay, how you doing?
Good. Thanks
Thank you
for
for thank you for coming back. Really appreciate it. Before we get started, I wanted it was just brought to my attention like yesterday, and I totally zoned out on that FeedBak is about to be 10 years old.
Wow.
Like I was going through some old
10 years
videos.
old?
Yeah, we started in like I think September or October 2010. And I was going through like our YouTube page and the old videos of the birthday parties and all the stuff we've done. And yeah, man, 10 years. 10 years of this thing from
Congratulations.
That's
from
nice.
from the parties, the coverage.
Bro, you
the-
should
You got your drink? You want to
throw up like the first interview or party we did, and then
Oh yeah.
how
I mean,
bad my editing was.
oh no, it was
And how
not, man. Don't sell yourself short because those were dope. I'm still getting I'm getting like copyright claims on YouTube for some for the music on some of the videos. But other than that, man, I mean it's a lot, and I got a lot of people to thank. Well, thank you, OB. Shout out to Angela who's been holding it down too. Min who was up with us early on. Everybody's come to the events, to the parties. People helped me start out this thing. Shout out to Faith. Without Faith, there's no FeedBak. That's just a fact. Because she pushed me to launch this thing, and I wanted it to be perfect, and it turned out to be great. So shout out to her. Thank you for all your support.
We have a lot of people through who had feedback over the years, like
Angela,
Angela,
the stickers,
Nico, Byron.
Yeah, Kylie, a lot of people. It was honestly, it was kind of, I was kind of tearing up watching all those videos and checking out all those pictures from back then. And now we're older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's
we're
jump
old.
into the craziness that's been happening. I want to start with Kanye, man.
Yeah, Kanye
Like,
going
how
on
did you?
a tear this week.
Yeah, I don't. Well, let me preface by saying that, and I'm not saying that like hindsight 2020. Like I don't own a single Kanye album. I do like the
Really?
old Kanye. No, I don't. I really don't.
Wow.
I mean,
I own two. Or first two. That's it.
like I appreciate the music and the production that he's brought to the game over the years. I mean, what is it? Over the Wire, Under the Wire, like that first
Through the
track.
wire.
Through the Wire. See, that's how well I know the guy.
That's
Like Gold Digger, all those songs, Jesus Walks, like I'm all about, okay, this guy used to, really hustled and put up some beats, and then, you marry a Kardashian and you go crazy
Yeah.
and start spewing some stupid shit. And then now he decides to run for president. And
I
how
remember
did you,
how I found out about it. I remember seeing it on my newsfeed first, and I thought it was a meme. I thought like somebody found like some kind of Onion article where they're like, "Oh, Kanye's deciding to run for president in 2020," and I thought it either was a meme or or some kind of satire
like the Onion?
article. Or remember he made that whole announcement like at the MTV Awards like years ago, and I thought it was like an old rehash of that. But then I kept seeing it like everybody was like Kanye is in the presidential race or something, and I just got like really frustrated and just annoyed. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Well, here's
Like,
here's my take on it from like the field that I work in coaching and mental health, and even like the book that I wrote, like a stigma around mental health, is that Kanye's been diagnosed with bipolar. Everyone knows that. And if you have anyone that's friends with you and you deal with people in relationships that have bipolar and things like that, you understand that there's if it's unmanaged at certain areas, it can cause some different thoughts and some different ways, grandiose mania, the manic part. And I think with him is that he brings to I guess the stage how Britney Spears is a good example too, how bipolar does play into like a person's everyday life and then their bigger plans. Because some people just go, well, Kanye's crazy, but it's like, well, technically he does have a mental illness or stigma or struggle, and he would follow all of the things that would come with that if not managed properly. So that idea of grandiosity, that idea that he knows everything, the pressure to stick with something he said at the MTV Music Awards. You know, in my life, the people that I know that I've loved and are my friends that are bipolar, this seems like manic kind of, you know, stuff. Britney Spears is in something similar too. A lot of people are comparing them right now, saying if it's not Britney Spears dancing with a little 90s tube top and some, you know, booty shorts, it's Kanye running for president. And I think just really good to kind of look at both of them and say it kind of puts mental like awareness up on the stage, and kind of see how their bizarre, what would seem like bizarre behaviors seems
I
normal.
mean, that's one silver lining. Like if he didn't kind of come out and like was honest with people to tell them that he's honestly is bipolar, like with this what he did last year and everything, it kind of came clean. Like, hey, I come off of my meds every now and then, and I have these like episodes. But it's just like I wouldn't have never thought that somebody that's bipolar could be like dangerous in some kind of way. Like the only reason like Kanye is with his conditions just because so many people take what he says like it's Bible, like it's fact, like so they'll follow him no matter like, and it's frustrating because like you have those like fringe people that just like are ride or die. Like he has a good chunk of a fan base that'll just ride or die, like they'll just ride with him whatever he wants to do. If you
Well, and that's why
they won't mark it off to like, hey, I think Kanye's racing right now with his condition. They just think like, no, he's a genius right now. This is what he's talking.
No. I'm not buying that. I mean,
either, obviously, because like again, this is what I work in. So, and I have my sister, a lot of people that I deal with. So I see this exact thing. It's not an excuse because some people in those states do know what they're doing. They're doing it on purpose, but it does come from that internal like issue of like I'm off a little bit and I don't manage it well. So it puts ideas in my head. I know what I'm doing because I've watched myself do it for like 15 years. I know I'm doing it. So that's where the accountability needs to come in, and he needs to be accountable for it and say, I can't just blame an illness. But I did want to kind of throw that out there because I don't think it is talked enough about, so that some of the followers can say, I don't think this is quite right, but on the other side, Kanye should take responsibility for what he does. I mean, I have a friend who met them, and she was on like a hosting TV, you know, like shopping network. Kim was promoting her line. And I said, how is it meeting Kanye? And she said, well, he was like a 2-year-old mentally. And I said, oh. And she's like, yeah, like he was having an episode and he literally just had to sit right next to the stage with Kim and was literally on an iPad the whole time. And you weren't allowed to make eye contact with him because like it set him off, it triggered him. And she's like, before that, I thought he was just an asshole. I thought he was just making it up. But engaging with him, I saw it with my own eyes. Like she like always told me he's bullshit. He's making it up for attention. But when she was a TV host and she actually saw it, I recognized it too when I was seeing some of his interviews when he'd be like saying stuff. I'm like, this sounds similar to what I deal with people in my life. So I mean, I don't know.
Is a need for validation part of that because he keeps calling himself genius and God speaks through him, and now he's all about God. He does all these like these Sunday services. Joel Osteen is his best friend.
He put out the Christian album. So it's always he has to prove like it's the grandiose idea that I was trying to explain. That they're, you know, I don't want to just talk too much because people are going to say that I'm giving bipolar is a spectrum, right? So I don't want to speak for anybody who has it, and I don't want to stigmatize it. I actually want to take the stigma away from it and say that it's just like any other condition. You need to look at it, but I do think that some people, even without bipolar, maybe it's not the bipolar part. But some people that have bipolar do have a higher sense of needing to be validated on some grandiose level, and that's the manic part. And that's what I saw. I read that.
So let's say most of the public knows this about Kanye. So do we give him like a pass?
No.
at like what for his actions for like
Nope.
like if this because if like if it like because if this continues and it goes the distance where he's actually in the presidential race and he starts peeling off votes from either like the Republican side or the Democratic side just because he's kind of experiencing something.
Trump has a
Dude,
mental condition also. Like narcissistic personality disorder is a real mental illness as well, and he's president, so he doesn't get a pass. Why I brought it up was to say, hey guys, like this person may not be like exactly all put together. And so if you are a follower of his and you think everything he does is gold, you might want to understand that some of like what's coming out of his mouth is a manic episode type speak. It's not necessarily inspired by God. That's what
yeah.
You can be a hardcore follower when it comes to his music. That's fine. Cause I mean, when he will say stupid shit and then he's like, oh, I'm dropping an album, I'm dropping something.
Yeah, like me, I'm a hardcore Kanye fan.
Fine.
Like I love his music and everything, but it's
sure.
but I can recognize when somebody's experiencing something that's not what they say it is. Like it's like his disorder is like there's good like this is probably one of the bad side effects of it, but there's been amazing good things that's come out of it too, where you can see it in his music, that stuff that he creates and stuff he raps about and stuff. Like it's like, dude, if he didn't have that disorder, he wouldn't be able to do a lot of the stuff he does or come up with a lot of these ideas that he comes up with.
But
it's a double-edged sword. It's kind of like the people that like love him and support him for all these great things. Like this is kind of the other edge of that sword too. But it's just
if we could teach people to embrace their if you have a mental disorder, right? Like I'm adult autistic. And I have had to prove that because people go, you don't seem autistic to me. But it's a spectrum. And I have been since I was little. But if you get around me a lot, you know some like issues, communication skills and dramas and traumas and weird things that I do. But I know how to manage that. I understand how that fits within society. I try my best to understand how it's good for me, how the good parts are, and how it's like going to hurt me if I don't pay close attention to those things. With bipolar, the mania causes so much creativity. Like I have a family member who is brilliant. She's a fucking brilliant artist. But as soon as that come down hits, it's just wild. And then the other thing about mania is that if you let that box open, you're letting the box open, and it's great to get all of the music he gets and all of the creativity that you get from a manic episode. But with that manic episode, you're getting the instability, you're getting the like unruliness, you're getting the inability to filter what you say. And if you are at his level,
Kim, let me ask you this: like, does your friend, when they're going through that episode, do they know that they're in that episode?
Absolutely. Well, my friend now, we're in our 30s. That's what I'm saying about Kanye. He needs to have accountability because by the time you have a diagnosis, you know what the patterns look like. You know what manic is. You know what you're capable of doing. You know when you've messed up, fucked up. You know what the good things are. So I saw a few of his interviews, and he said, I choose to go off the meds so I can have a manic episode to create. But that's why he goes to Wyoming,
that's fine.
right?
If you stick to music.
He goes to Wyoming,
but sometimes he doesn't stick to music.
Well,
clothing, and he goes to Wyoming because he can't go out in like public and mess with people, right? And not that bipolar people do that. I'm just saying like he's off by himself and he's not triggered as much. He can create.
Because I've seen like both interviews. Oh, sorry. I've seen both interviews where he's admitted like at the top of the interview. One, I'm doing this interview. I'm on my meds right now, so I'm gonna seem a little bit like chill or mellow. And then another one where he'll come out and say, I'm not on any meds, and he's all over the place, like running around TMZ and stuff. Like, and you're admitting that you're off your meds. I'm like, this is not.
That's why I was saying
a good. This is. But I was like, I can't judge. It's just like I know he had like you have some kind of method. You come off your like and from somebody that takes a lot of meds. I could understand like not wanting to be medicated all the time. It's something about it just seems like it stops your whole thought process and this whole country has like a pharmaceutical problem.
Oh, we're not,
like here. But I'm not gonna go sidetrack into that.
What really got me when he announced it, like over a tweet, we've been talking for the past few weeks about what would be the thing that would take our that would distract us from the Black Lives Matter movement.
Oh,
And
yeah.
as soon as he tweeted that, I'm like, fuck, now everybody's gonna talk about Kanye for a few days.
Yeah.
And BLM is gonna take a back seat. And that's what happened. I think that's what happened. So people were trying to. There was a huge interview on Forbes.com where the guy actually talked to Kanye and then asked him like some pretty straight up questions like what are your take on foreign policy and on Biden and on your that you embracing Trump and you read the answers and you're like, that does not sound like a reasonable, viable candidate for anything.
Yeah, it was a
Other than, dude, you're
4-hour
creative,
interview.
stick to that. And
He was like, because what are the talking points that came out of that interview? He was like, he wants to call his party the birthday party. Well, because it's going to be a celebration when they win or something. And then
he goes, vaccines are the mark of the beast. I'm like, how can you have someone in any kind of position of power that believes that vaccines are the mark of the beast and we should just pray to God and hope that this thing goes away?
And then it's just like, and it was just like different statements like that contradicts other statements where like, hey, I'm taking my MAGA hat off, like I'm stepping away from Trump. But then like the very next like question, it's like, I don't mind if I take away the black votes from the Democratic Party. Because it's like that isn't that like helping Trump if that's what your whole
this is like, so it's a contradicting illness. So the brain does not, it literally can have those two contradicting thoughts exist in there. And I think like one of the things that I feel sad about Kanye for me when I watch things, I'm watching like a lot of my friends that were really inspired by him I love Kanye's music up until a certain point. Then it gets a little off for me. So that's where I, not as much, but my hardcore Kanye fans, the ones that grew up, on Southside Chicago, followed him through that. They saw the struggle of who he was when he was coming up with Jay-Z and like how that was so inspiring. Like they saw people like Common who matured into rap and how he matured into a man and what he brought his message with. And Kanye didn't mature into anything like that. And so they lost that connection with this dude. They really felt a connection through his music on, and he didn't grow with that. And he's not growing with those people now. He's really, you can be a hardcore Kanye fan, but still be like, shit's off, man. And that's not the same as what people had hoped with him. I think his mom's death also brought a lot of issues. It triggered this to spin. And then you're on a reality show with the Kardashians. So this is
you just for the Kardashian period, you lose your shit.
Yeah, multi-layered thing on reality shows. Worst thing you can do for a bipolar type situation is to put a camera on it and put a spotlight on it. And that's Britney Spears too. Right now, people are saying that. And I'm always having to say that in my coaching groups. They're like, women want to say some shit. And I'm like, y'all are talking like she's wearing these clothes and making fun of stuff, but we know Britney's Britney. We know she's got bipolar. And then they're like, oh yeah, that's so sad. And I'm like, well, no, we just need to be aware of that. Like when you go, why is she doing one thing one day and one thing the other day? If we just understood mental illnesses as they were, we know to hold accountability, say, hey, if you know you have this, pay attention, and get a support system. His support system is the Kardashians. That's not a good support system because they're going to do anything to exploit, get more views for their stuff, obviously. And I know a lot of Kardashian fans are going to kill me for that.
I don't know. I'm in the minority. I feel like Kim is really good for him. I feel like she's like the same.
I think he got the next best thing because he saw Jay-Z got Beyonce. It's like, who else can I get married to? I'll be like, we're all the
power. Well, and he and Kim go back so far. Like he wanted Kim when she married her first husband. What's his name? The
Chris Humphries.
Chris Humphries. He wanted her then, and he couldn't have her. Kim has always been somebody that he wanted, and he felt like was the attainable. And when she became the Kardashian, I actually don't have an issue with Kim Kardashian in a lot of ways. I'm just saying they are very good at exploiting things for their show, and it's what they've done, and it's just natural to them. I don't say that to be rude. I just know that that's, as a marketer and in that culture, you can tell that's what they're good at. They're good at exploitation of a situation. So I don't think that's healthy. I think maybe Kim could be healthy for him, but I don't think the exploitation of him is healthy for him when he's not going to be able to rein in when he's in front of so many different cameras. She's not standing with him all the time. So like with my friend's like, she watched him from the side during the commercial breaks, all that kind of stuff. She was like, you good? This is happening. He can't touch that, this kind of thing. Kim is actually really on her shit with him, but she can't be with him everywhere because it looks like she's babysitting him. So I think that's when he gets a little wild, honestly, is when he's like, oh, Kim's got like a fashion shoot over in like overseas. I'm about to go meet up with Trump and wear my MAGA hat.
Yeah. Well, I hope this like is short-lived and we can kind of get out of this Kanye cycle.
I really hope so too, because I mean, when this comes out, and then there's the fact that he got money from the government.
Oh yeah, that came out. That's like,
yeah, and it's like, oh, now I'm not with Trump no more. But I mean, seriously, if you read some of the shit he said in that interview, how it's a lot of God this, God that, and I'm like,
it's because his the person he kind of selected as his running mate is a pastor.
He officially said he wanted Joel Osteen.
No, it wasn't. No, it's not Joel Osteen. It's somebody else.
Okay, I was like, that's not what I thought.
I hope not. I know they're tight, but
if he ran, like, that would be scary as hell too, because he would have a good chance of winning. He has so many followers that don't even exist in Houston.
But
like,
but here's the thing: like,
it's not him.
You got to take in consideration that you have maybe not the majority of the population, but enough that can fuck things up. People will be like, yeah, as a goof, I'm just going to vote for Kanye.
It's because dude, you know, because you think about like in 2016, we would not take this that seriously at all. But since Trump like showed a celebrity can successfully become get into office, you have to take these things like full on serious now. Like,
yeah, you can't
like think about let's throw a hypothetical out there. Like, if it's not Kanye, which other celebrity would you be just as frightened of that could actually get enough people to support them?
The Rock.
To get it. You think The Rock?
Seriously, The Rock, Oprah. Who else?
I wouldn't be as scared for those two. I mean,
if Tom Hanks decided to run, I mean, these are like people who
Jennifer
Aniston. No,
like she's beloved. Like, I think she
but I mean,
could
like,
get a bunch of
America's Sweetheart type shit.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you're loved,
it's just
but
like
you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes.
What about
to
that K-pop band Troll Trump? Like, they have a clear big fan base. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be able to run.
But they wouldn't be able to run. But I'm just but this whole era of like celebrities that could just kind of run for office it's kind of scary, man.
I mean, maybe it is a distraction. I mean, not maybe it is a distraction. Period. And honestly, it's a joke. I agree with Jacqueline in the chat. It is a joke, and there's no.
But we're not going back. We should at least not acknowledge.
No, but I mean, it should be shut down right away. Whatever the credentials are to become president, to even run at this point, like, you got to get signatures, you got to raise money. You got to be like, look, man, you don't need it's not a black or white thing. Like, we can't have somebody like you with the nuclear codes.
He was an actor, and that happened in the 80s. And then Trump, a reality star, in 2016.
Yeah.
So
no, but
we're not going backwards. We won't go backwards. Like, everybody's going to see it as like anybody can run now. So we have to at least take these things seriously and understand that maybe some reform needs to be put into place that has some requirements or something, because at this point, the door is not going to go back shut. Like, Reagan did not have a background in any form of politics, and he was able to really move up there and get into politics. And honestly, if you be a Reagan fan, that's great, but he did a lot of fucked up shit.
Dude, I think that the door is so wide open now.
It's so wide open now.
Think about in 2050, we'll have like an influencer that's running for office, and we're just like, yo, this is the time we live in now. Like, which YouTube influencer do you want to be chief of staff right now? Like, it's just craziness, man.
I think, any election, all elections from the dawn of humanity have always been a popularity contest. They want to make it out to be this like grandiose journey, like, I want to serve, blah blah blah. But George Washington was the first president because he was a war hero. Done. Like you didn't need to know much. You're like, okay, this guy everybody likes. All right, so we're gonna put him up there. You know, Reagan, same thing. Clinton, he went on Arsenio and then played some saxophone. Oh, we like the guy. George Bush. Oh yeah, I wanted to have a beer with him, even though he's an idiot. But yeah, we'll go for it. And now Trump. Obama too. Same thing. Popularity contest. You have Obama and McCain, and you go, huh? Who do I want to hang around?
Right.
So it's a weird system. It's a weird system that's one complex as fuck, between the raising the money and the electoral college and the popular vote and all that stuff and the different states and the different way. I mean, it's a mess. And so, and the you know, gerrymandering and all that stuff. And you're like,
And the
it's a popularity contest at the end of the day. So why make it something other than that? By throwing in all these different, you know, these things, and then, you know, you get people on stage talking about, yeah, I'm doing this for my country, and this is the noble thing. I'm like, no, just
The public likes to feel like they're vetting people.
How did we?
But are we really vetting people?
Not Bernie.
No.
And I think that's the other thing too, is that's a good question. How you end up with Joe Biden over Bernie is that a lot of people are not educated on a lot of things. Like
but
they don't understand a lot. They hear what they see on TV, or and a lot on TV or in the feed. So not many people are actually educated on what a person they're voting for is actually standing for or stood for. And I've just found that to be quite interesting this last year. I was a Bernie fan. If you see our fridge, I've got Bernie everywhere, and I'll still rep that till the day I die. But the thing is that with any type of, you know, race or whatever, what I saw this last year was genuinely, when I would speak with someone on policy, I would be like, oh, why, you know, I would want to just genuinely know, why do you back that person? And they would give me some regurgitated thing that they heard from their friend or their neighbor. They didn't actually go read it. They didn't actually know a person's past. They didn't know anything about what it actually, if that person had voted, if they had voted for bills.
Kanye's never voted for anything.
Well, not voted.
That's the craziest thing
like
too.
Bernie or Joe Biden or Obama or different things. Like, people were very interested to find out later that Obama, you know, most of the time that he ever was in Senate, like, and some people are going to they get annoyed when I bring up Obama like I'm attacking him. I'm just saying what's public. He voted president. He didn't actually choose. He's always been very good at staying kind of in the middle, and that did really well for him. But
that's the whole thing, how we ended up with Biden right now. Like, the Democratic Party, like think about before we got into this year, like, the Democratic Party was dead set on, we need to pick somebody that is right in the middle, that can pull enough Republican people that's not going to scare them away, like a Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, that's so far left that they won't ever pull away any Republican like fringe voters. So we let's just pick the most kind of in the middle guy that we can find, and that's why they all kind of dropped out, and they all supported Biden, all like a simultaneous coordinated attack kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Obama made the calls, not to be rude, but like he kind of fucking did that shit. Like, kudos to him. Like, everyone's, I mean, it's public now.
I get it, but like, that's like.
But at the same time, like, we could paint it as it's just that they wanted it to be Republican votes, but no.
But now 2020 has changed. Like, there's a lot more than just the fringe votes.
And it's really,
they're going backwards, and it's probably going to fucking cost them, because the establishment wanted it to be their way, and they thought we've always been able to get our way. And Hillary's documentary came out right before the primaries. You're telling me that Bernie's pulling the winner of all of these elections? Biden is at sixth top. No, he did not win one state. Bernie's winning. Pete and him tied, and then all of a sudden Obama makes these calls, and then everybody starts voting for Biden, and it's like, because they endorsed him. And it's just like, you got to understand something about that too, is that when the people like Obama and Nancy Pelosi and that group, they're still a little bit behind. They're not on Twitter. They're not in the social media. They're not seeing what people are actually doing. So they still believe that whatever worked for them 4 years ago, 8 years ago, will still work for them. It's not working. And now they're pulling it. And like last year, or the last time when it worked, got Hillary close to beating Trump, they thought it'll happen. Hillary's in that middle spot too.
Everybody goes like, it's weird. Everyone goes back
close to him, to her. She like the first woman president. A lot of people voted for because of that. Joe is not pulling those votes, and I'm into statistics. I read a lot of polls, and it's always worked for my job. And like, I just wanted to look at it lately and see if it was working. Not working. People are like, no, I'm staying home.
Have you noticed that a lot of people
It was Bernie's fault too, because I think that he was not that. I mean, he's been consistent for decades about what he stands for and what his ideas were. He's always talked about the same stuff, but he never wanted to move to the middle a little bit. He stayed so strong on his ideals and never wanted to move that people were like, look, man, this is too radical of a change for a country like that. So we're going to go with Uncle Joe. So I mean, it's also his responsibility.
I mean, he actually did move. I mean, I mean, I think
too late. When he did it was too late. He came out too strong, saying, "This is where I am, and I'm not budging."
But what he came out strong with is actually what the Democratic Party has taken on as their norm now. Like,
yeah, now,
like I'm saying, I mean, he did what he did, and I mean, he did it, and he moved a whole fucking party this much. That takes a lot. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you can say it's his fault because they were never going to let him. I'm just straight up. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It's straight up. They were never going to give Bernie the nomination. Never, ever, ever, because of other reasons. And actually, Bernie does come close to the middle. Like, if you go, they call him the Amendment King for a reason. If you go and you look at Bernie's record, he goes and he takes a bill that's kind of like radically left or right, and he compromises with people and he gets them closer to the middle and some ground. So he actually does vote a lot of the time closer to that middle. But the media, if you don't do your research, you look at Bernie as extreme radicalism. But he's actually not that radical. Go. And so you see that, right? But when you go back behind the scenes, because my ex-husband is in politics. So when you go behind the scenes and you have that data that you can look at, you can see that Bernie actually was not putting anything out there that wasn't doable. It's just, unfortunately, the delivery was super radical, and that's where I agree with you. He takes responsibility in the way that he came out strong in wanting to radicalize. And he thought that it worked for Trump so well, but it worked for Trump so well because Trump found an entire group of people that felt like they didn't have a voice, and they were like, hell yeah, we have a voice now. But that was not the case with Bernie. A lot of his people were on board, but they didn't actually show up to the polls. So a lot of, younger voters were polling. They didn't actually show up. And, my kids are around that age. They can't vote just yet. But I was like, your friends that are 18, did they go vote? And they're like, no, they didn't make it out to vote, but they're still repping Bernie. Okay, well that's not going to work.
Yeah, but now we're at a point where all Joe has to do is not fuck up.
Joe's not going to win. I'm going to call it now. He's not going to win. I can tell you. I read statistics in the polls, and I can tell you, I told people.
Why you got to put it out there? Shit.
I don't want it to happen. I'm saying it so people will actually show up. I'm saying it so to say, look, with Hillary, people assumed that she was going to win, and and she just had to keep herself straight, and then Trump won. So what I'm saying is, right now, it doesn't look like Joe's got the best thing, because Trump is talking all this racist stuff, talking about the way he's acting is very much how he did in 2016, and he got everybody fired up again. That's
what I was gonna bring up. Was like everyone's going back to their old playbook. Like why?
Yeah, but Biden is doing the exact opposite in his rhetoric.
Right, but Biden's not really anywhere. Like, I mean, you're looking at polls.
He does because he doesn't. But it's like, but honestly, he doesn't.
He stands for one thing: is I can beat Trump. Everything else really don't care.
So what I'm saying, like, if you want Trump out, don't assume that because you see in your feed that people hate Trump that he does not have the.
Oh, vote. If there's one thing, I do not underestimate the American people.
Yeah,
I've been in this country long enough to where I'm like, you know what? Average people are just average. I totally get that. And it's not insulting. It's just the way it is.
I know. Don't underestimate people. Actually, that actually brings in something else I wanted to talk to you, get your opinion about, because this has been tripping me out. And I had this conversation with one of my other friends about this. So, what is the protocol now in 2020 when you're in public and somebody's recording you?
Reporting you for what?
If you're in a Karen situation. Because how is every 48 hours there's a new Karen showing up. And like it's like, and they see the phone recording them, but they continue to do what they're doing wrong.
You
Like
know
how do you not stop at that point?
I
Because
don't
remember
care.
back in the day when you would see a phone pop up, and you see the light, and somebody would yell out "World Star," you automatically know what the hell is happening to you. But
I'm
in this
glad.
time, in this day and age,
It's
somebody
still
can start
happening.
yelling racist stuff, like doing whatever they're doing. People pull out a phone, and it does not stop them at all. They continue. What is this? Like,
I don't know, but I love it
Remember
because
earlier when
they
I
need to
talked
be.
about narcissistic personality disorder? Some people, when challenged, when you say, see how you're acting? Look, I'm recording you right now. Some people will actually it'll trigger them to be more enraged, and they don't have that rational thought process. So when you see those Karens going off, the phone probably has triggered them even more because they're like, you're recording me?
to
Oh
the
my
point,
God.
like,
To the point like that lady
but
who
do
pulled out a
people like?
gun.
So do people not like because by now like we all know the whole chain of events is gonna happen. Like this video is gonna get uploaded. My employer's gonna see this, and I'm gonna
Rational
lose my
thought.
job.
I'm saying,
Are people just you get to a point where you're so angry that you don't care anymore, or are you just oblivious? Like are they just daring them? I dare you to try to make this video go viral. Like
it can be both. Like, have you heard the term going red? Like someone went red.
yeah.
It's the term of like I used to have anger issues because of my childhood, and I went into anger management, and they taught me going red means you literally like just see red. There's no rational thinking. You're just like, I am going in on this right now, and until I get everything out, I don't stop. There is no rational thought process of job, video, YouTube, whatever. It's seeing red. So I think it's both. I think it's that some people just don't care and they think, no way would I end up there. They don't have that ability. And then second, some people do have, it's road rage type of thing. You know, like a person will literally chase a person down 6 miles to go tell them off or flip them off or hurt them because they're just, it's called seeing red. So I think that that's what happens. You're catching a person in the moment of where their anger has taken over and it's become rage. And when it becomes rage, especially in this country right now, a lot of racist white women are enraged that their thoughts are not being accepted and that black women are getting this, black women or black culture is getting attention and people are looking out for them. And if they feel the slightest bit like they're a victim of something in their life and it's not getting attention, they will literally go off. And especially if it's a person of color that's filming.
Back, have you ever been that enraged before where you can't calm down?
No.
I have.
Like either of you, have y'all been that, like?
No,
I mean,
I've been enraged. I used to be an angry kid, believe it or not. I used to like, you know, we have an expression in French. If I translate, it's milk soup, boils very quickly. So when you call someone milk soup, it's like, look, I can say 2 words and you don't just snap. And that's how I was when I was a kid, like bang my head on walls type shit. And then I didn't take any anger management courses, but I was.
I used to get that angry before, but I think like now that I'm older, I'm more aware of it, and I try to like calm it down or keep it suppressed. Like I don't want to get caught in that situation where I'm like that upset that I can't that I could see a phone and I would still continue to be that upset and continue on doing whatever vicious thing I'm on my way to do.
That almost always has a mental thing. For me, my anger is different than yours back. Like you're like 2 words. I'm this. I'm chill. I'm chill. I'm chill. Okay. My friends call like when they said that when my eyes go squinted, like that's when you've lost me. Like if I'm like, I'm really trying to be patient. Okay, you're still pushing me. You're pushing me. You're pushing me. Pushing. And I know this is annoying.
I'm that now. It just takes a while.
Because
and then you just
I start slamming tables.
And that's exactly what happens for me. So I'm like, I will try everything with any situation. De-escalate. Okay, I'm good. You're okay. But if a person's pushing, push, I can snap. So I don't have that now. But one of the things for me is that the anger management for me was to make sure that I didn't, when people would push, that I wouldn't snap and be like, okay, now we gotta like this is a crazy situation. I was 19 when that happened, and mine was because of an assault. So I developed anger as like a coping mechanism. So I took anger management to get rid of that. But I definitely know what it feels like. Like I had a friend tell me that like she had blacked out and hurt someone one time, and
Like
everybody was like,
blacked out rage.
blackout rage, like just blacked out rage. And they're like, hey, can you believe that? And I was like, I mean, I've been blanked out with rage that bad and hurt somebody or been physical crazy like that. But I have had similar situations. Like I have Addison's disease. And one of the things that we deal with is the ability to not regulate fight or flight responses. And a lot of people do have this and don't know it. And so like if I feel like attacked, especially with like PTSD type stuff, or I'm going to be in danger, my body might malfunction. And I feel like I have to like fight my way out of something. And so it's one of those things too, is that you have to be aware. This is an example that I was telling you is
like this, like how when you see the camera recording you and you're vandalizing public property,
and just
like
making
how do you not stop yourself?
She was yelling back to the people. She was killing it. She was glad she was being like, she was proud of it even. That's what's wild to me.
And then like, so this couple went and vandalized the Black Lives Matter.
I mean, this is what you do
mural.
on a beautiful afternoon. You got nothing else to do. And you're like, you know what? this is what I'm going to do today.
And now they've been charged with the crime. Like they've been charged with a hate crime or something. That's what they said. Yeah. And the guy, like I watched this whole video, this guy is saying, because the crowd that's watching are like, do y'all have a permit there to do? And they're like, no, this is vandalism. I'm here to clean it. Like, you don't have a permit. What you're doing is vandalism. They actually got a permit to make this mural. It's just like his logic. and then she actually did everyone a favor because she stated within the lines of the yellow Black Lives Matter. And it's a perfectly painted Black Lives Matter.
let me close that real quick. Let me ask you this, because the case of the Central Park Karen is coming up, and the what's his name, Christian Cooper, the bird watcher, said is not cooperating with law enforcement, like he's not pressing charges or anything like that. And his response is, you know what, this girl, she lost her job, she lost her dog, her business, whatever she was doing on her own, that's gone too. She's humiliated. Everybody knows who she is. Basically, her life is destroyed. And he's like, I don't want to pile on to that, by making by cooperating with the cops and making sure that, she gets a fine on top, or she gets, jail time or whatever. So what do you think about that in that response?
I agree with him. Like I would side with what he's doing. Like I don't think I would pile on at that. Like if nothing happened to her to begin with, then sure, press charges and see if she gets a ticket. But she already, I think we all know that she lost her job and she's been humiliated like nationwide. Like what else? Like she nobody really got hurt. And like, thank goodness, nobody got hurt in that case. So I feel like she got punished enough. Like I feel like for what she did for trying to make a false report, you got.
I don't think
like,
so.
What else? You don't think it went far enough?
No, because
what else you need?
No, so I think that there needs to be maybe an example made out of this, because here's the thing. She knew that she could get this man killed. Yeah. And she used that against him. It's not nothing.
Yes,
it's not nothing.
Did. No, like a whole group of people could have gotten hurt. So I
exactly. So I think this is almost like, look, I'm trying to kill this guy. Like I'm literally calling somebody else to come hurt this guy, and that's premeditated. It's not. I don't see it as I was trying to defend myself or anything like that, because we clearly know that wasn't that. She literally used that against him. He could have been dead by now. So, and I think that if there's an example to be made to where, hey, you do this kind of shit again, this is what happens to you. And the fact that yes, she lost her job, she lost all that stuff, that's just the court of public opinion going against her, right? Now, imagine another case like this where the outrage is not as dominant or as big, okay? Yeah. And the person gets away with it because it doesn't go viral, for example. It's a video that maybe it's only 2 seconds or something. Not a whole lot of people see it, but it still happens. and whoever was able to call the cops on the black person just gets away with it. That's too easy.
That's
So
true.
Well, I have the proof of that from the
go ahead.
video that I shared, Obi, with the white girls here that said the N-word.
Oh yeah.
The school said that they had handled it and that they had given them repercussions and it was fine, and they actually backed them in their statement by saying what they did was not good, but it's also not good to cyber bully people because it could lead to suicide and all of this. So they actually like sided with them also. And what's happened is my children go to this school and everybody's just like, they didn't, like, they're literally like, they didn't get nothing happened to them. I talked to them. They didn't get anything that happened to them. They needed to go to like detention center, or they needed to learn something about it, or have to do a training.
Exactly.
So that there's nothing that came of it. And I kind of in the middle. So I'll tell you what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
a question on
you're right.
perspective. So I agree that one thing is that precedence always has to be set. And unfortunately, it has to be a person that messed up. And
Yep.
if she lost all those things, it's her, because it is almost attempted murder. You know what you're doing and you could lose a person's life. Now, a good example of how to compare this is people who used to not help people that were ODing on heroin. So a person would OD on something, pills, whatever, their friends would be like, holy shit, we don't want to call the cops because we'll get in trouble. And so what happened was, when they finally started prosecuting the friends that didn't call the police for a murder, that's when they started being like, we'll drop them off at the hospital. We'll call the police and then we'll get out of here. But what we're not going to do is just leave them. So there had to be people that started doing that. In my hometown, even, a drug dealer who had sold someone pills got charged with capital murder, like capital murder, death penalty in Arkansas, where I grew up. So the guy that just sold the guy some pills, he OD'd. The prosecutor said, if I don't charge him with capital murder, then some of these drug dealers won't take it seriously. And so a lot of these drug dealers stopped like doing some of that stuff because it was like, well, if they can OD on it, it's not just weed, then I'm in trouble. But on the other side, there's a little bit, I was going to ask perspective of where y'all, have you discussed this before, since I'm a guest, with cancel culture, where it just becomes everybody's just ended, everything's ended all the time. How far deep do we go now? Once the precedent has been set, now is it everybody's ruined, or do we start teaching people, or is it case by case?
No, you can't. Here's the thing. It's not something you can, the court of public opinion cannot be regulated, honestly.
Right.
You can't, if someone decides to, as soon as something happens, someone does some research, someone posts a picture or video on Twitter and then goes, hey, we need to identify these people before faster than the cops can, or any investigation. And they're like, okay, this is the dude's name and address, and this is where they work, make some phone calls, get the dude fired. And there's no way, there's no getting around that. But if there's a system put in place that punishes this kind of behavior, that could be even a bigger deterrent, because now it's on paper, or it's official. Like, look, man, you do this, you get fined this much, and you do jail time, or whatever the punishment may be. And but you can't expect, and we've talked about this before, like you can't expect people to react the way you want them to. So some people will be offended. Some people would be like, "Eh, they're another one." Some people would be like, "Hey, let's give her a pass, or give him a pass. It wasn't that bad, or whatever." So whatever their reactions are, that's up to them. However, there needs to be something that's objectively goes, okay, you check, attempted murder checkbox as is defined in the law, or hate crime as it's defined. And so because of that, here are the consequences, and you're gonna have to deal with that. The rest, we can't do anything about it.
Right. Makes sense.
Like the San Francisco just introduced a bill called Karen.
Yeah.
The Caution Against Racially Exploitative Non-Emergency Act, or Karen with a C.
Yeah.
That's great marketing, by the way. Shout out to what's his dude's name? Shaman Walton, black guy from San Francisco. So, and we don't know yet like what the repercussions will be, but I mean, it's going to get introduced, and he has somebody else backing him up, a Filipino guy.
I was in a conversation this week that was on Zoom. That was a social, we do it. I told you about my friends that they hold it. And so we get together and talk about these topics, not on live, but we just do it together because of the tensions that are going on to try to, 20 people usually come on. But one of the things that some people were making note of was like, even where we are, that these girls that did this here at our school, they're very attractive white girls that cried and was like, it's taking my college away from me, and it was just dumb.
Wow.
Alcohol, so they got away with it. But when it's somebody who looks like they're like 50 and they have an art, like they're just like rawr, people tend to jump on that more, and they don't feel as passionate for them as they do the younger people. And that's where I feel like, that's what bothered me, was that these girls were looked at, they literally became the victim. They spun it so well that it was like, people are giving me death threats, and I'm like, but you know what you did? You put the video out. Like, if it's cause and effect, teaching kids cause and effect, like you did it, it caused from the effect. And so I was just wondering, like, if you've seen that play a role in it sometimes, because I see people get really angry when they see an older Karen, but when it's these younger kids, or attractive female,
Attractive is the key word here. Yes.
And I don't want to say it because so many women like to go, why are you saying that? But I think that's true. That's what I've seen. And the Central Park lady, she got a little bit more, she looks different than some of the Karens, and she had a different world and life, and she'd done some other things. She was very well liked by a lot of her friends, as opposed to the woman who's just like the head of the HOA that everybody hates already anyway. She was attractive. These girls at our school, the kids' school, attractive, very influential parents, cheerleaders, all three, head of cheerleader squad. Nothing.
Because people like to give young people like the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, they like, I did stupid things, and
I don't think it's a young thing. I think it's an attractive thing as well. I mean, young has to do.
Yeah, because if there were 3 black boys doing something and they were young, they would not have given that pass here.
Yeah. Or if those girls were like ugly by like today's magazine standard, something would have happened to them. And it's like when you see all these like Amber Alerts or kids being abducted, and then you're like, yeah, these are cute kids. Those are the only ones they report on. Like when Nancy Grace did like a whole special about a kid that got abducted, like what's that, Natalie Holloway or Calloway, whatever her name is. Everybody knows her name.
That's that Patrice O'Neal.
Yeah, but it's true.
It is true.
It is.
It's like, look at this white girl. Like, she's from.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. If you haven't seen Elephant in the Room, go check it out. But that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Like, whoever.
Obviously, it was Natalie Holloway, but absolutely, she was blonde hair, blue eyed, like all American girl. I mean, she was with her friends, and she got drunk and went off.
Everyone knows her name. But the Rubian girl,
Rubian girl
that was murdered, the following girl.
What's her name?
Nobody knows who that is.
Exactly. Nobody freaking remembers.
That's a good point. So I just wanted to get that out there, because it's like I was kind of hushed on that a little bit this week in some of my groups, because it was like, it's not the attractiveness, and I'm like, no, it is.
It is. We give attractive people a pass on a lot of things.
And that's just culture, right? Like, I'm a huge sports fan, and then I do well. Like, again, it's because of analytics. My brain likes analytics, so people don't usually expect me to know analytics of sports, but it's what I like to watch, and so I'll keep up with the teams. And so we were talking about it, and people were like, I just don't get it. Like, all the teams are my friends, that don't watch sports. The quarterbacks are always the prettiest and the cutest dudes. And I'm like, well, think about it. They're attractive at school when they're younger. They're given the ball to be the quarterback because they're light immediately. They become good at that. And so they're good at it. They become better at being a quarterback. They get more attention. So then they stay
popular.
In that role. So they're popular up until they become in NFL. It is an attractiveness thing. Now, the little kid that you may not find as attractive could be just as talented, but wasn't handed the ball because you don't like him as much because he doesn't look like.
Kim, stop hating on me because I'm pretty.
Yeah,
no, I mean,
it's just part of it.
Right now,
it's part of
it. We all know you were chosen first for dodgeball. We all know.
No, but there's a truth to it. There's really I always wondered what is it about. I saw there was an experiment where they had it was a blonde girl stuck on the side of the road with a car broken down, and everybody, like a bunch of guys, will stop and help her out. The brunette did the same thing with the brunette, same situation, just the hair color was different. I mean, the girl was, you know, was good looking too, but she was a brunette. People didn't stop, guys didn't stop. And there's and honestly, it's something I noticed that early on, because when I first met, when I came here 20 years ago, and I was like, and I would meet white girls, and I'm like, is that really your hair color? Like, what is it about being blonde?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a question to you too.
So in American culture,
Can you get closer to the mic a little bit, or?
yeah. So for a long time in American culture, blondes were in majority were in the movie stars. Marilyn Monroe, you have that. You have the models that were on the cover of the magazines in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And so the Farrah Fawcett's back into the 70s, and Cindy Crawford was kind of a brunette in the 80s, but mostly it was these Anna Nicole Smiths and these really, you know,
Pamela Anderson.
Pamela Anderson,
yeah.
blonde bombshell. You didn't hear brunettes were, it's a stereotypical thing. Brunettes, which is my natural color. Brunettes, just because I gotta like preface this because I'm smart. I'm just joking. But
look at this is my real hair.
Right? I'm like, but my real hair is actually this. So if we're gonna go on smarts, brunettes,
okay, I have a question for you about that.
And then natural blondes, it had this like dumb blonde stigma to it, right? But they're pretty. So blondes are pretty and brunettes are smart. Well, that's carried over in sort of like the culture of just that in the back of a subconscious mind, the blonde is going to be beautiful. Like anybody that's blonde has to be beautiful, right? Because it's blonde bombshell. These wordings that society has put it on magazines, they put it everywhere. We got into indie culture. We've obviously evolved. So people started seeing a lot of more like Hispanic women, Latinx women, people of color, women of color, Beyonce, different people become like this vision of beauty to where it's not as much like that too much, but still with some men, if you put a brunette, they're like, she's going to be smart. And you put a blonde, she's going to be hot. Who do I want to help on the side of the road? Well, the brunette can probably like figure it out. Like I already had this conversation.
Or just bad, evil.
Yeah. Or it's like,
on TV, the brunette is the one that's a troublemaker.
So, but you know, that's what I think it is. It's like just an ingrained, just like we talk about with racism and different things, we're also ingrained with beauty standards and body things. It's also with the hair colors, because you had so many stars for a long time that had blonde hair. And even now, like I told you last time on it, my daughter and I noticed a lot of the Hallmark films had only white women in it. They're always blonde as well. So what I think happens is a lot of companies look, and they do, well, we do it too. We do polling. So we put together a focus group and we ask them, what do you prefer? What's this, what's that? And the blondes do better for marketing, different things like that. So I do think it's a part of societal marketing that's brainwashed certain men, not all types of that. But I will tell you one thing also, not for you back, because you're smart enough to know this, but just some of the people watching. I just want to say this. I was in YouTube, I work with YouTubers, all of that. A lot of these things are set up. So be very careful when you're watching things and it's guided a certain way, because it's not always what it seems. And I want to say that because sometimes these videos will come out that will make a certain group look bad. In your case, it wasn't about anything bad, but it'll make a certain group look bad, but they set it up. It was fake. They were not actually doing that. And that's what bothers me. Like I saw some video where like a homeless guy, they were doing homeless things, and it was just showing that these homeless people were just going and buying alcohol. That's why this person was like, this is why I don't give money. And so they gave it to like somebody who looked like they needed help, and they went in and helped somebody, but then they gave it to some homeless guys, and they would go buy alcohol. Later, it came out to find out, and I know because I'm friends with somebody who was a part of it, it came out that the homeless guys were not real. They weren't going to buy alcohol with that money. They just wanted to set up a video that kind of proved why you don't give money to homeless people, because they're all addicts.
That actually,
be careful on those videos.
This doesn't have anything to do with, but what that story you just brought me, like, reminded me of a real life situation that happened to me. That was like a aha moment that I really like. I was in Houston one time, and me and my guys were just all going out to like the nightclubs, and there's a bunch of homeless like around downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like earlier in the night, this really disgruntled, like gaunt kind of like homeless black woman like came and approached me, and she was like kind of tugged on my shirt and was like, "I'm hungry. Do you have any money?" And I was like, and I said no, even though I had cash on, but I just was kind of uncomfortable. I was put off, so I said no, and I walked in. I went to the club, had a fun like a regular night, and then went back to our hotel. Then when we were going into our hotel, I was approached by a white guy, but he didn't look like a gaunt homeless person. He looked like he was kind of put together, like he just kind of got unlucky. Like, oh hey buddy, do you have like a couple of dollars so I could get like this a Greyhound ticket? Like I just like lost my luggage and all this stuff. And then I was just like, and he was talking to me like just like a civil conversation, and I gave him money.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, and I remember like when I went up to my room, I felt very like ashamed of what I just did. Like, cause I was just like, out of those two people, who actually looked like they needed the money more to survive? Mm-hmm. And it was the person that I saw like right before I went into the club that was like clearly stranded on the street, clearly hungry, but because I was uncomfortable, I didn't give them the money, like, because they didn't approach me correctly for some reason. But then when I was in the hotel and I was like, in this guy, I mean, you're in a rough situation, but you're gonna be okay. You'll work something out and you'll find a way home. But because you approach me in this like comfortable way.
But do you think it's something has to do with something more than the approach? Because if that white guy had pulled on you.
But did you have drinks also before?
And it's just, it made me, because it really questioned everything, like to the core. I was like, am I like, because I was like, am I racist towards like black people myself? Like, why did I not give it to the black person? Why did I give it to, like, I could not, it just really frustrated me.
A hotel or a club?
It was what's the question?
You're going into a hotel or club? What I'm asking is, was alcohol, did you drink before? Did you walked in?
No, that wouldn't happen because I don't drink to begin with. So I'm just like.
So I was just going to give that, like, if alcohol was involved, we're obviously going to be more giving. So I was going to say.
It was just, but it really questioned. I was like, I think after that situation, I really like, I'm very conscious of what I'm doing. So whenever I still continue to give money, but like, I don't want the deciding factor of if I'm going to give this person money is their approach to me or how they look. Like, I'm just like, if I want to give money to help you and I'm gonna give money to help you, like I feel like I shouldn't have, like, I don't know, I was really embarrassed by it. I was like, I shouldn't have shoot the homeless person that really needed the money to survive. And I couldn't at that point, it was too late. I couldn't go back and track this person down. Like, they're just vanished into the street.
Weird, as the person that always comes from like a psychological coach perspective, I'm sure it's annoying, but what I've learned, and I learned this in my own like therapy, is when I've chosen one person over the other, is because the one that I've shied away from is one that is closer to what looks like, could be like me in certain ways. And if somebody looks like, feels like, sounds like something that would be a fear to us, like, she's a black lady, she's a black woman, you're black, and she's homeless, she's there. The other dude didn't look like you, did all of that. I've had a lot of issues with, like, anybody that looks like, or has issues that looks like it could turn into me, I could become that. I'm like, I don't like that feeling, and I'm much less likely to help because something uncomfortable that has told me that's a fear that you have, that you could end up like that. So, I mean, I don't think you're racist when you said, was I racist to my own people? Our brains don't like something that can say we could end up like that. And that other guy probably, maybe, I'm not a psychiatrist. I want a disclaimer on that. I'm sorry, back. I just want to say, like, maybe because he didn't, trigger any certain things within yourself, it was just easier to give to him, and the other lady was ezy to get away from. Because we don't want, like, to stick around.
Because I think about the same issue. Like, it's like I looked at the whole homeless situation. Like, it's really similar to what's happening with Black Lives Matter too. Because think about it, like every time we're at an intersection, we see like a panhandler on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
What do? We all kind of we do a couple of things. We either
We ignore
like,
them.
We try to ignore them, pretend like hopefully they don't see me or they don't come to my car, and I'm just gonna pretend like I'm doing other busy stuff, or like I'm too focused on the road, or if they do come to my window, I'm just gonna say I don't have any money on me or whatever. And then the moment that light turns green and you drive past, you never think about that person again. But that person's still struggling for the rest of the day. But for everyone that's at the intersection that you drive past, like it since that problem is not your problem, it's so easy for you to just kind of look past that issue. But if we all kind of so think about that as like think about that panhandler, if that was Black Lives Matter, if they're on the corner and they're asking for help, and you want to try to ignore it because that at that moment it doesn't really pertain to you, and you know the moment that this light turns green, you'll get past this issue and you'll go on to whatever you had planned. You were planned. But that problem is still there. The problem didn't go away. They're still there. They're still hurting. Still need help. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, and it's just one of these things that I wish more. I really wish more people had like empathy. Like I feel like the world. It's so easy for society to just like have no more empathy.
Discomfort. Those people that we see, it triggers something in us. Like if a lot of the world works paycheck to paycheck, and they're one paycheck away from homelessness. So like, it's hard to look at somebody like that because again, it triggers something in us that's like, I don't want to be that. Or it also triggers like an anger of like, you could do more, or I'm sure you could be better. We have a lot of biases around homeless people and different reasons why we look at them the way we do. But the majority of people are afraid that they could end up like that. Not everybody, but some people are like, you know, that's some scary stuff. That embodies everything I don't want to be. So we literally psychologically ignore it, just straight up like whatever. I mean, and I know with like my kid, I do agree with you. I wish we had more empathy because my son taught me a huge lesson. I was kind of jaded as a kid because my dad, and we were a lot of like poverty level, and we would go camping. And my dad had given money to a panhandler in Grenada, Mississippi. I'll never forget it. And we went swimming. He gave some money to this guy, and my dad is tight. He don't give money to nobody. So my daddy was like, well, you know what? I'll give it in front of my kids. I guess I'll be a good example. We had some raggedy ass car, we always grew up in trailer parks, like no money. And we come back and we see this guy getting into like a brand new fucking Buick. I mean, it was literally him. He's packing a sign away. This is what his job was. He did not care. It was so crazy. Yeah. So that jaded me, right? Okay. And that happens all the time. So fast forward, I'm in Seattle, a lot of homeless people. I would not give money for the longest time to homeless people because I was so jaded from that. Because I was like, my dad worked hard for that money and you have the nicer car than what we have in our life. That's crazy. And that stuck with me my whole life. Well, we're driving in Seattle and there's always homeless people. Jaden, my oldest, is more empathic like me. He's got the autism as well, but he's very high functioning, good, whatever. So we're driving and I am like all like, we gotta go. Like we're late to school. I'm late to work. I had to work like a couple jobs. So I'm already in like hectic mode and we're on the way to school, already late as per usual. And Jade's like, mama, we gotta stop. And I'm like, no, dude, not today. There's a million. You can give your allowance to another dude. And he's like, no, mama. And I passed the guy. We had the time and I passed him anyway on purpose. Because I mean, we didn't have the time, but we had the time. So we passed him on purpose. And I think that it's not going to bother my son. I think, like you said, most of us, we drive past and we don't think of them again. My son starts bawling, like he is crying so hard and he's asking me to turn around and he's asking me, please, to go back. He needs to give this money to this man. And I'm just like, Jaden, honey, baby, we're about to get on the freeway. We're 40 minutes from your school. I cannot do that. Let's just move on. He goes to school. We go to the school. I go to pick him up and the teacher's like, he's had a rough day. What happened? He's been crying about some homeless guy all day and that he needed to give him the money and he couldn't. And so he's been worried about him all day. And I was just like, wow. So the next day we come through, and the guy, we actually got to know him because he was in our neighborhood, that the Central District of Seattle, if anybody knows that area, it has a mixed group of, you know, people with money and not. And so we got to know him later, but because we met him, but he really was just down on his luck a little bit. And Jaden was able to give him the money, corrected that mental trauma that I had created for him. And it taught me that, like, you just don't judge first. Don't go, do you need it? You can't. Like, you can't judge first. But you can't give everybody money either. So I don't know.
Exactly. So here's the thing. Why that guy specifically? And
With
not the guy, maybe there was somebody else at the light before.
Jaden hadn't seen, so he hadn't seen. My son wants to stop for everyone.
But back, I don't like that question to begin with, though.
I mean, my son,
because you can't really judge how somebody wants to give.
No. I'm not saying stop him. I'm not saying.
Yeah, no, he didn't choose between anybody. Like, he wants to help everyone, and he just, I kept them away from homeless people for the most part. Like, we didn't go to areas where they saw it as much. So when he saw that guy, and it was kind of like, we had just moved from Texas where it wasn't as prevalent. When he saw that guy and he had the money in that moment, it wasn't that he chose between someone else. It was that he literally was like, well, he needs it. He hadn't had as much exposure to homeless people as other people may have, or other kids may have. He was about 7 at the time, and we just moved from San Antonio, and he hadn't seen really homeless people. So he was like, the guy obviously needs it. He didn't have any.
It's like, I think everybody does that. Everyone goes through and they do that. Like, they ask themselves the questions like, oh man, like, I've had a rough week. I've been working, busting my ass all week. I don't have enough money to give this person. Like, we it's like we all kind of go through that, but
I mean, do you walk around and do you give money to every homeless person you encounter?
No, not every, but it's just like it's like, but we all know the more you do know when you have a little bit extra
Sure.
that you can disposable income. Like the instances where I do give money is like when I know I'm like route to go to like Jack in a Box or something. I was like, you know what? I can bypass Jack in the Box right now and let this person go get Jack in the Box or something. I'll give them the money that I'm going to use on that. And just small things like that. Like if I have the little bit of change at that moment, I'll give it to somebody and sacrifice that meal that I was going to go have, or that Red Bull I was going to go buy at 7-Eleven. That's it. It's just like,
but if it gets to a point where someone asks you and you say no, and you know you have money in your pocket, or you have some change you could give, but you actually say no.
The bar I always have is like what was I going to use this money on? What disposable? Like if I actually needed it for, hey, I actually needed to get gas later or something, I keep it. But if it's something else that I can do without, like if I like, because we all like, we're in a whole society of like, we have excess of all this extra stuff that we know, like, and with the quarantine, we all have kind of learned that we don't really need that much to survive. Like,
no,
I mean,
you can spare some change. I'm just like, saying that. So somebody has to catch you. Well, first of all, to your point, you know, you never know what people are going through. You could be having a horrible day that day, and you're like, you know what? I'm not in the mood to give money, even if I have some. Right? That could happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but you can all, and if you really want to help, is giving every homeless person you run into a little bit of change. Let's say you have a pocket full of quarters, you know, and everybody you see you give, you know, is there maybe a more efficient way to help than to, you know, go around and go to all the camps under the overpasses and go, hey, here's some money, hey, here's some money, here's some money.
Yeah.
What I taught my son, the way we handle it, because he sees it similar to me, like, I want to give, like, it's why I got into what I do. Like, I want to fix, I want to coach, I want to take in the stray cats, I want the dogs, I want to help, you know, that my life I can't keep that kind of lifestyle up. There's no way to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's like when people are like trying to be vegetarian, but they can't always. And I'm like, you can't feel guilty if you have to eat some meat sometimes. It's okay. You're doing the best you can. The way I told him was like, because I had to admit to myself, like, it's not always that I don't have the money. Sometimes I'm just late for a movie and I don't want to deal with the person. So that's just to be honest. Like, it's not that I'm not, you know, I can't do it. It's that I just don't want, I'm on a date. I'm going somewhere. So what I told him was, with you, if you just feel like every now and then, like you want to give when you feel like you can, as much as you can. And then if you can't, when you walk past someone, don't kill yourself over it. Don't sit there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's a good approach.
So that's the way you're doing it right now. To your bigger question, I have friends that work in, they built, I told you guys, the Haven for Hope. They put together that program. It's here in San Antonio. A lot of cities in the country are trying to get that model for Haven for Hope's homeless indoor and outdoor area, because some homeless people don't want to go indoors. They want to stay transient. So they have both of those areas. But my friends were the ones that kind of, the ones that hold the questions about like community.
I've seen some of those. I've actually visited a bunch of them too.
Yeah, they do really.
Like they do like some movie nights over there, like and
so
kind
that,
of free housing.
I think it's, you know, a bigger topic if you're wanting to feel like you said, how do you help in a bigger way? Because it's not about just taking a bunch of change to people. It's about building ways that people who have a way of life kind of set in themselves and wanting to be a certain way, bigger programs. So like with Haven for Hope, homelessness is approached differently. It's like, if you want to stay transient, like if that's just where your mental state is, you want a tent and you want to stay out in a community with people like that, they have an area, but you still get food. Or if you're somebody who literally just lost a job and became homeless, and you want the skills, or maybe you're 18 and put out of the system and you're homeless and you want skills, a place like Haven for Hope has an area for like people who are on an upward trajectory of getting a job, people who are battered, people who want to stay in the homeless shelter for the night inside and live in there, people who have children separately and they go through the classes, and then people who are outside that just keeps them safe so that they're out in a place that's safe and not, you know, so I think there's a bigger.
But I've seen like, I mean, I think the source of it is like empathy, like, cause I just came back from living in LA, and not in the homeless issue that's out in LA is another tier of something that I've not ever experienced ever in my life. Like, it's not like, I think most of the people that I see here in Austin are all kind of like the same level, but like in LA, there's tiers of homelessness people. Like you have like this bottom tier where it's like you're gone kind of homeless people that are like have addiction issues or just like gone and just like on drugs and stuff like that. And then you have like this other middle tier of homeless people that those are like your panhandler guys that are just kind of like they have a tent and stuff. They come out, they ask for money and stuff like that. And then you have this top layer of homeless people that I've never seen before, where there are people that look exactly like you and me, that you'll see like in the nightclubs and stuff, but then you'll also see them go into their car at night and they sleep in their car because they can't afford, their credit's not good enough for them to get like apartments or something. And they're everywhere. Like it's just like in all parts necessary. There is like
a lot of those are actors and actresses trying to make it, so they have to be seen in places, and they're in LA.
Yeah,
but I think
it's because this is like out in Ontario. This is like not in LA. Like this is like I'm seeing
in LA.
But like I always,
that's what I've had experience with. Is that a lot of those people came out there and they're trying to make it, and so they have to be seen at the clubs and interacting and networking, but they don't have the money.
But what I'm saying is like I always look at all of those levels of this homeless issue, and I'm like people like I think everyone we're like 2 or 3 bad string of events from being in that position. That's all it took. It's like maybe it was like all hit at this exact same time where you lost your job, your apartment burned down, and this like and now you're homeless like at that like like that in the blink of an eye. Like it's just like
I watched this John Oliver on HBO did a whole thing about homelessness about a couple weeks ago. Actually, it wasn't about homelessness, it's about evictions. And how people now who lost their jobs can't pay their rent, and landlords like, look man, you got to get the fuck out, and that's going to turn into a homelessness problem. Because there are some landlords out there who are actually giving their tenants a break, and they're, far and few in between. But a lot of landlords are like, look, I got to take care of my shit. I got property tax to pay. I got all these things to pay. So sorry, if you're out, you're out. It's nothing personal. It's
Yeah.
just business. And next thing you know, and like you said, Kim, most people, majority of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And so
Yeah.
fast forward, if this
And COVID,
lockdown
COVID just
thing,
added to this
huh?
whole issue.
Oh yeah, I
COVID
mean
just
it's
added
gonna
to this
happen.
whole issue.
It's gonna happen. People
I
gonna
mean,
get kicked out of their homes.
whole
And
family
what he was
illness
talking about
the
in
last
his
2 weeks.
what he was talking about um in his expose was that landlords can already file right now to get rid of their tenants. But it won't be effective until later. And so what's going to happen is that you have people that can't pay rent, and it's okay. But then because the landlord filed at that time, and then fast forward 3 months from now when things reopen or whatever, and like I can pay, like, well, you didn't pay for these months, and I filed back then, so sorry, you got to go.
Yeah. Hey,
And
what's that?
Literally,
Oh,
I've got 2 friends on my Facebook feed that literally I would have never ever thought that I would open up my Facebook feed, and they were like, "So we got evicted. Like we have a GoFundMe up." And I was like, "What?" They were like, "We're homeless," and I thought it was like, I was so confused. One had a GoFundMe, and one was just telling them. But everyone's like, "Where are you living? What are you doing?" Because their family was like overseas in different places of the country, or like one family didn't have, both sides of their family have died, that they were only children and their parents were dead, so they don't have family except for themselves. Well, they were literally living with like their 2 kids in like their minivan. They were just regular America type people, but they were like, we're living at like a little RV park where they let us, we begged them to let us park our van for $40 a week or whatever right now, because like we're literally getting no money from anything other than like shipped or waiting to get a job at the grocery store or whatever. And I mean, I was shocked. Like I was in like their whole world, because of COVID, they both were laid off. The landlord did what you said. The landlord had already started the eviction thing. So as soon as Texas said landlords could start the eviction process again, they went ahead and said, bam, you're done. They kicked them out. One lady and her husband was like on the way back from like a family member's house that had gotten COVID in another state, and all of their stuff had already been taken out of the apartment and rained on. I mean, like this is going to become much different. Like if you want to know a lot about like LA's type thing, you can watch the documentary on Skid Row. Skid Row is like the top tier of
yeah.
they govern themselves. The police don't even govern.
I had one of my scariest encounters in LA on Skid Row, because it was my very first time in LA, and I didn't know my way around anywhere like in downtown LA. And I was driving my rented car. I was driving my rented car, and I took a wrong turn, and I end up on Skid Row, and it was just like all I see is just dust, and I can't see through to the other end of the street. And then when the dust starts clearing, I'm surrounded by hundreds of homeless people, and they see this brand new car coming through their street, and they just start shaking my car.
Are you serious?
Shake,
it's
rocking
serious.
my car, and I was just like,
man,
oh,
it's like
I was like,
Thriller.
what in the world is happening? I'm gonna have to abandon this car, but I can't get out of the car because they're gonna attack me. What is happening? I just keep slow on the pedal, just keep driving as slow through as possible. I was just like, what is happening?
The thing about LA that's wild is 2 streets over is the big ass fucking fashion district. So it's where all of the fashion district and all the fancy things go. And then literally 2 streets over, if you take that wrong turn, you go into what looks like Mad Max. It's dusty.
Holy shit.
They govern themselves. They dress.
And they have and now they have like the Intercontinental Hotel that's like only a couple blocks away. I was like, how is this built like multi-million-dollar hotel here next to this crazy ass street?
Yeah,
like it's just so it's insane.
But I would want if for people who want to understand homelessness mindset, I really would watch the documentary about Skid Row, because people don't understand why people want to stay homeless, and it's because it's just sometimes it's a mental illness issue, or sometimes it's a way of life issue for them, but they really prefer being homeless, and they've got a partner. I mean, I watched that documentary. I ended up on Skid Row in a bad situation too when I went out to LA to shoot a video. My friend and I took the wrong street. And same thing, like we rolled down the window to ask for directions, and a woman told me, "Go now." Like she was a little more put together, but she was like, "Get the fuck out of here right now." And I was like, she was rude. And then when we go out to eat later, this is my first time there. We go out to eat, and I said, "Yeah, this lady on like, you know, whatever, Skid Row or whatever." And they were like, "Well, yeah, she saved your life probably, because they would have yanked you out of your car looking like that, acting like that." And I was like, "Oh." But when I watched the documentary, I had a much understand. I love to understand. I mean, it's just like that helps me not judge so much. And so I like to understand different people. And I was watching that documentary, and I was like, oh, I get now why it's not like the people who don't have homes. You can give some people the homes and they won't take them. So not all of the homeless population wants to get into a home. And unfortunately, our country thinks that sometimes. We need to get them in a home. We need to get them new clothes. No, sometimes we need to just give them an area that's safe where they can have their camps. And that's what Haven for Hope does. Seattle,
Remember when the quarantine?
you could put a tent. Like, what I love is there was this douche type, or that's rude. There was this
No, I'll say it.
there's this asshole millionaire in Seattle who was just like ridiculous. And because Seattle is so open with their homeless population, they are like, we don't want to stunt their way of life. It's their city too. They're very interesting the way they put it. But they can put their tents anywhere that's, you know, public, whatever. So there's
like
a millionaire that was trying to block everything, you know, and do all this stuff. So they went out and they literally set up camp with all their tents and all their stuff and everything in front of his $1 million, billion-dollar home that he was trying to sell. And they blocked him from selling. Like nobody would buy it because he couldn't get rid of it. Like he kept dropping the price, and everyone's like, I don't want to look out on tents all day. Like that's not.
Like,
you remember when our COVID quarantine started, and like everyone was worried about rent, and they're like, hey, okay, you don't have to pay. We're gonna defer rent in Austin for 3 months, but when July hits, you're gonna be liable for those 3 months that you missed of rent all at the same time. Like that, like if somebody actually took them up and did that, like this month, they'll be hit with 3 times the amount of rent that they've ever been hit ever. Like it's just stupidity. Like it's just who can
look when you don't have a choice.
They gave us the option of paying rent. If you paid your rent on time, they gave you this incentive. Like if you paid your rent on time all 3 months, they gave you 20% off of the final month or whatever, because I think they knew people were going to start bouncing. So I was like, yeah, I'll pay my rent on time. Like I'm in a stage of life at least at this point, that I can pay it on time and get that discount, right? But I was reading the message boards, and people were just like really uneducated about it. And they were like, no, I'm just gonna like, and I get this point too. Here's what some people were doing is some people were like, I'm not paying my rent. I'm just gonna put it, and this is what I actually was gonna do too. Because I was like, what happens if something crazy happens with my health or whatever? I don't know, lose my job.
And
So
what you're saying is so true, because you're not the first person I heard this from. Like so many people are like, for this month are not gonna pay rent.
Yeah, like save the money, put it in savings, because if something happens and I get kicked out, or not kicked out, but I need to go somewhere or do something and I need that money, I can go travel and live with my parents. That's what my brain was. I can go live with my parents on a mountain in Arkansas. It's not preferable by any means, because they are wild as, and it's like Duck Dynasty meets like Jerry Springer a lot of times. But and I see some of my family and friends have popped on, and some of you like me, and like of my family, and some of you don't like me. So this is another reason, I'm sure. But anyway, so the thing is, I'm talking extended family. But like Kim's always talking about our business. Like it's not your name if it's not. I mean, nobody knows your name, so you're good. But here's the thing. So I waited. I said to Sinjin, you have a job, when my ex-boyfriend, which I still talk to. So, I mean, it's no drama there. So Sinjin, you have a job. I have I work. What happens if like clients don't, want to pay, or life, or blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I think we should maybe not pay it, because we don't know what the government's going to do. And so let's put it in savings. And then when they do, it's due, we can take the money. If we want to stay here, we pay it. But if we don't want to stay here, if shit gets wild and we need that, extra money, we have 3 months of rent, like $4,500 or whatever, that matters for living expenses. and maybe we could go
It's
somewhere else.
true.
Like
Like
I can live in a van. I can put a twin mattress in the back of my van, and my kids are good to go for camping for about 2 months.
Yeah, but
So
most people, I won't say most people, but the idea of saving
right,
is
like
not, to begin with, is
like
not something
I
I
would
gotta
never
eat.
or like, are you prepared for like a worst case scenario? Because I feel that's
Yes, you
how I
mean?
kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I am.
with the way all these this testing is going, and the way they want to they want to go into like a second shutdown, it's like my mind goes into like safety net mode. Like what needs to happen, like to if we shut down again and we quarantine for like another month or so, and I don't have another, and like I've been out of work since March 13th. That was the last time I worked. And I'm supposed to go back to work next month. So I have to just like, as of right now, I'm supposed to just kind of like
Coast.
save fund, like coast
Yeah,
for
mama's
one more
house.
month. But this next
one of
shutdown, but this next shutdown,
the
how much
things
longer will that
that they
extend
have
stuff?
But that's the other thing too, is like, I mean, one of the things is that if people don't pay rent, if they don't pay the rent, then the landlords and all of those people start losing businesses and all of that. The government's more likely to open up again, because I mean, that is a point that they have to make, is that if the big businesses are losing money, which is real estate is the big business, and if people are holding that paycheck, which is an argument a lot of people have made, if people are holding that rent right now, and the big mortgage companies are not getting their money, the banks are not getting their money, then they're going to go, let's open back up so these people can go to their jobs and pay their rent again. So there's a lot that people are weighing. But then the other thing is, if they don't open back up and it's a complete shutdown and you gambled on that and you didn't, you don't have other savings, then you're screwed. So I mean, I don't know that there's a right answer in any of that for anybody. It's a person to person situation.
I saw that. So when they like people get evicted, when the landlord like calls up and say, well, you should have thought this through, and you should have saved some money. You should put some money aside just in case this shit happened. We're like, yeah, but you too, as the landlord, you should have like saved some money on your end in case this kind of shit happens. So you can't just blame the tenants and said you were irresponsible when you as a landlord were not in the first place. So I think that
extends to bars and restaurants. Like, I have a friend here in San Antonio that does very, very well and saves and spends the right money with his bars and the way that in his restaurants here. And so he like has done what he's done still okay. He can stay open, not open, but he can still maintain his business because he has a different way of doing his business, and he has a reserve. But a lot of the bars that are complaining about, we can't stay open and we're going to close. Again, there is a correct way of doing business also in that industry, not just real estate. So when it's like, I can't go back to my job because I'm a bartender because nobody's saying anything. It's like, well, you also need to talk to your boss about how they were spending all the money they were making and not putting it back into their business and savings for something that could happen as well. So it doesn't just extend to just the real estate and the tenants. If something could happen, it extends to businesses too, because it's not just a savings problem with people. As Americans, people who have small businesses will make their money and they won't put the money back into savings if something happens with their business. Because I coach in this. People come to me who lose their business, and then I have to go, what happened? We spent through the money. Okay, well, you weren't putting back into your business for savings in case something happened and you lost a bunch of clients. No, we wanted just the bigger house. We wanted bigger things.
Right. So it is then it is about people not wanting to save, like whether it's a business or it's personal or it's, the government. It's like, look, my priority is not to save for a rainy day. And yeah, the ones who end up saving are the ones who are better off. And
we got into a lot of arguments where people were like, you're not talking enough. And I was like, or you're acting happy, or you're posting photos, or you're buying new big plants and different things. And I'm like, well, because we have savings. I got sick 2 years ago and almost died. And that was a wake-up call for me to save and to make sure that I saved as much as I spent. And we get crap for living in a one-bedroom. Like I have 2 kids. You see this bed here? This is we live in a 1-bedroom apartment. I have the living room because like any other country, you can live in a studio and have your living room and bedroom together. So my bed is in the living room and my two teens share a room together because they don't want a separate room. So we downsize, we pay for a smaller apartment that has less utilities, less drama, closer to everything that we're at so that we can save. Where some people are like my age, some of my friends, they want the big house with 5 bedrooms and an extra kitchen area and then 2 dining rooms, and they're paying for that big space, but they, you know, that's up to them.
Yeah.
So it is about
it's a
what you're,
splurging thing.
yeah, we have.
I wonder which,
lifestyle.
like, I'm really curious which industry will be the first one to collapse.
Oh,
Like, I don't say that like as a fearful, but I feel like at this point, the direction we're heading into, one industry is gonna just completely collapse.
service.
And I don't think none of them have done it so far. The airline industry is still going. The stocks are still
I
going.
think anything
like,
that has to
healthcare,
do with large groups. So think about entertainment. So when I say entertainment, it's think about production crews, think about event coordinators, think about like wedding coordinators,
Yeah.
think about people who do sound. Most DJs now can't do shit but play on Twitch. If you're in the business of getting people together, it's gonna be tough. It's tough for you right now.
It's like
Bars,
it's just like,
restaurants.
do we just like, because it sucks.
But churches are okay.
Like a lot of my network, we're all in the entertainment industry. Like
I feel so
like,
much.
if we're not in like
care. Like every time you talk, I can just feel that you just care so much. Like you're just, I can see the wheels going, and you're just like, I care so much. Like
what? He has a big heart.
Yeah, like you're just
yeah.
really asking, like, what's the answer? Like, what's the answer? And I'm just
trying to like figure out, because I'm big on, I want a solution. Like I don't want to just like
nobody has one.
I don't want to keep heading into like a brick wall. I want like let's talk about this and find a solution.
But I've also grown a little bit out of feeling like there's a solution to everything. Like coming on 40, really kind of like life kind of fucking hit me hard and was like, look, it can't always be fixed. And I was always like, everything can be fixed. Life and relationships and people and puppies and broken. I can make cute things out of something that's broken, and then business and everything. And sometimes it can't be fixed. It has to fall. It has to be fucking dead in the water.
It just is.
And then it has
and
to.
And you deal with it.
Phoenix.
So you think so? So what you think? Pretty much, this is gonna be like a Phoenix coming out of the ashes kind of experience for all of us.
Yeah.
Something's gonna get broken. And
I think it's gonna be. Hold on, I wanna wrap up soon too, and we can talk for another 5 hours offline like we did last week. No, but I think there is a. If you think about like whether it's the flu pandemic from early century, last century, or you think about any kind of big. Like a recession or something like that, it takes years to get out of it. Like there's a before and an after type of deal. There's a before, there's a during, when everybody got to suffer, and it's usually not just a few months. It's like, oh, during these 3 years, this 4 years or 5 years, this is how things work. And then eventually we got out of it because we learned more and we evolved and we adapted and we found new ways to fill in the blank. Right. And I think this is going to be one of those where it's like people are hoping that everything will go back to normal by the end of the year. I think there's no Thanksgiving, no Christmas. I'd rather think that now and be like 2020 is shot. It's been shot since February.
Yeah.
And then I'll see you in 2021. And even 2021 is not guaranteed because all I hope.
Oh no, never mind. You keep going.
We talked about this before. Like, there's some lessons to be learned from this, from this pandemic and this situation. Is that we live in a fragile world where one thing can just like take the whole planet and shut it down. Mm-hmm. And now that we know that, what do we do? And so, and it helps also help people put things in perspective when you're like, oh yeah, this thing, we're untouchable, freedom, we're the most advanced, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, no, this shit could knock you out on your ass take you out of your home, lose your jobs, kill your grandparents. So wake the fuck up, because this is,
Yeah.
don't take anything for granted. Don't take
It's
shit for
just
granted.
it's just so it's so frustrating, like how like we're months into this pandemic and we're still like in first gear. Like
Exactly.
how are we cycling back around to the beginning again, where we have to redo all the stuff we just did, we have to redo it all over again? Because people are like, and if people like, I've seen a lot of good people like try to get this message out, but it seems like people are just so hard-headed. They're like, well, with more testing, that's why we have more cases. No, for the 100th time, like, even if you don't test those people, those COVID cases are still out there. Just because you didn't test them doesn't mean it's not out there.
Mhm.
It's still, the number is still there. So it matter if you test it or you don't test it. If we're testing it,
But
lets us know it's there. So it's just
I
I don't
think
know.
this is
There's
gonna keep
just gonna be
going.
so much. There's gonna be so much collateral damage, and some people think that, oh, after the elections, this is all gonna disappear. It's not
Nah.
disappearing. This is
I
here.
think so.
We're in this.
That I like to leave people with, like who I coach with, and like why my business still goes, is because I'm in the business of helping people transition and transform into something that's like multi-layered for their life, like multiple source income, savings, spirituality changes and life changes or whatever. But I think one of the things I've seen in the community I'm in, and then also just like in my clients that I've worked with prior to this, is when talking to them, I thought that my job would go down because I was like, oh, people won't have extra income for like coaching or something. But people didn't have another job. So they took that savings they had to come to someone like me and say, hey, I'm really good at all of these things. What can I do online? And I'm like, okay, this is what we can do for you online. But I think one of the biggest things that I'm learning to teach my clients is like, yes, savings. Like savings should just be like indoctrinated into kids at a certain age. My kids have a savings that does not touch, but they're the ones that guide it. But the thing is like savings is there, but also like the ability. What I've seen is it's been really hard on people that only knew one thing. I'm a bartender. I'm a DJ. I'm a this. If you're not multifaceted, so in my world, we own a media company. And so as soon as this all happened, people started doing things online. So we transitioned what that media company does now. We used to do events too. We completely got rid of the event side because I'm like, I don't care if COVID is over tomorrow, just don't even take a chance on it. But you have to have the ability to evolve and transition whatever it is that your gift is, whatever it is your work is, and always have a backup, like a plan B, have a passion, a side job that might work for you. Because what I found with a lot of people that came to me, whether their parents paid for it or whatever, they were like, this is all I know how to do, until we sat down and I was like, I don't think this is all you know how to do. You can't just only DJ or only know how to bartender. What are some other things you know how to do?
How
And
about learn something new?
something else.
Yeah.
Or getting, like a lot of people are getting their certifications online to do
Exactly.
jobs.
Yeah.
And that's what I teach some of my clients to do. And this ability to transition and to transform. I mean, we laughed about it last week after hours back, that like I've lived 25 lives, but it was out of the ability to, I was forced on me. I always had to transition. Something ended and I had to figure out a way to transition. So I went with whatever was there. And I think that that's what we need to do, is have an open mindset and not be so set on, I can do this job forever this way. And if I can't, the government will help me. That's not always the case. And we need to be a little bit more open to be multifaceted, which we talked about after hours as well. Multifaceted, multi-layered humans, so that we can adjust and do more than one thing and be a little bit more prepared mentally for it. Because when everything happened, I didn't freak out. We had food because I used to be Mormon. We talked about that. And so I have that 1 year food supply stuck in my head where I buy an extra thing every time we go. So we didn't have to worry about that. And it's just funny now where I go, I'm not Mormon, but I'm glad that I had learned that one tool from that religion that taught me to be prepared for doomsday or whatever. And I had the space for that because we didn't run out to the grocery store. We didn't have to subject ourselves to that first level of infections and all of that. So just, I think if anybody's listening in this, like, try to like improve yourself in the place of, everybody's like start a blog, do this, do that. Great, do all that stuff. But during this time, try to figure out a way to be a multifaceted human being in your ability to work and offer the world and the community more of your talents. That's not just one thing you know how to do. If I could leave that with everybody.
Yeah,
I got a number. It's nearly 70% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. 70%. And that's as of last year. So
I'm going to hurt people's feelings with this one thing, but I've seen it in my coaching. I'm just going to call it out. Most people will say, I just don't have the money to save. Now, if you are a single mom or a young family and you literally are paycheck to paycheck and everything's going to bills, I'm not talking to you, I promise. But some of the people, a lot of people, a massive amount of the community population will say, I just don't have it to save. But then I've heard it, I've seen it a million times. I don't have the money to save. I can't do that. But I'm seeing you buy clothes. I'm seeing you buy Starbucks. I'm seeing you spend money extra money on going out to eat when you could be buying your meals and spending $6 for a meal for your family, but you spent $60. There's always places that you can save. So we cannot use, I don't make enough to save that much. Like, that's just not true. Like, we have the savings. I just went through a breakup where I'm going to end double income home in the middle of COVID because my children and I just stuck to a plan, and I told them we're not going to live extravagantly and this is how we live. And we were minimalistic anyway, but that's been able to make me feel better. And that gives you mental security. So a lot of these anxieties that everybody has during COVID,
I feel like
that would be helped. You know, it would be helped if you had savings to ride these times out, because everybody's focused on mental health right now. And
well, this whole time period is built a bunch of hustlers too. I've seen a lot of new hustlers develop a bunch of new businesses.
Get creative. I want to leave with this.
Yeah.
There are like online savings account online that you can, like, instead of putting it in your savings account in your bank, where you don't get any interest at all, there's all these online savings accounts that you can sign up as free, and then you can transfer money there, and that money will work for you because they're like a 2% interest you can get every month or whatever. I'm at the American Express savings account, and every month, plus 20, plus 40, plus 8, plus whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, just gotta take the time to look it up and see what works best for you. But like I said, this is gonna be. I mean, I'm not a science expert or whatever but I'd rather think that this is going to be here for a while and prepare accordingly than not do anything and hope that things get better and end up on the street. So
yeah,
that's my 2 cents. We're gonna wrap it up because I know we talk a lot. We touched on a lot of things. Start with Kanye, ended up on how to save money.
Yeah,
right.
We came in with only one subject to talk about. It just morphed into everything else. So yeah.
So again, thank you, Obi. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you for tuning in, and follow the FeedBak on the social medias. And I'm about 2 episodes away from catching up the last week as far as like putting it online. So subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think. You can message the FeedBak at whatever platform. But yeah, we're trying to do this every week, Thursdays, 9:00. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.